Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Live with Rye. I'm your host Rye, and I am so thrilled you are joining me for another episode. I just want to thank you for your continued love and support. It means the world to me, and I truly cannot thank you enough. Before we begin though, I do have a favor to ask of you. If you're joining us, I just want to thank you for your continued love and support. It means the world to me, and I truly cannot thank you enough. Before we begin though, I do have a favor to ask of you. Okay, there we go. So sorry about that technical difficulty. That's what happens when you have YouTube open on the other page. So apologies. Let's start again. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Live with Rye. I'm your host, Rye, and I am so thrilled you are joining me for another episode. I just want to thank you for your continued love and support. It means the world to me, and I truly cannot thank you enough. And hey, this is live, like live theater. Anything can happen. If you're joining on YouTube, I'd love if you hit that subscribe button and subscribe to my YouTube channel so you never miss an episode of Live with Rye, and so you don't miss any of my other videos as well. You can also, if you're watching on Facebook, hit the heart or the thumbs up and give us a like or a heart so I know that you're watching. You can also follow me across social media. I'm at Rye_Myers on Instagram and Twitter, and I'm on Facebook at official Rye Myers on Facebook. That just changed, so that's a little new. And you'll also see my website scrolling across the bottom of the screen as well, rydthenewsguy.com. Head over there to rewatch all episodes of Live with Rye and to see all of my other exclusive content, including the launch of my new production company, Rye Entertainment. You will also see my Venmo handle scrolling across the bottom of the screen as well. If you are so inclined, I would love if you considered donating and helping to support myself, the show, and my platform, rydthenewsguy.com. You can also go to rydthenewsguy.com/donate and contribute there as well. And with that, let's get started with today's show. Please help me welcome my very special guest, author of the new book, A Gay Man's Guide to Life. Please help me welcome Britt East. Hi, Britt.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, thanks. Good, thanks. Sorry for the technical feedback there.
No worries.
No matter how many times you do this, you still always, in the digital world, there's always something that...
The magic of live theater.
Right? The magic of it. Oh, in this digital world. If it's not here, it's on Zoom. Who knows? So how have you been holding up during this pandemic? How are you holding up?
I'm doing great. I'm so fortunate. I'm very healthy. My husband and I have both worked from home for years and years, so we've had minimal impact, and we're doing just fine. It's completely devastating what's happened. However, crossing 500,000 casualties in the U.S. alone is shocking and mind-boggling and humbling. And so I just feel, so much empathy, care, and concern for those struggling with either the economic impact or the impact to their health. And so it's just heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's absolutely devastating, and it's such a grim milestone we're approaching. So I guess working from home for you then wasn't that big of a shift then, since you already worked from home, you were used to it?
Yeah, and we have a really small house, so it makes it kind of close quarters that we both work from home. But in times like this, we were really grateful because there was zero adjustment. So
well, that's good. Yeah. You both thrived in this, which is it's been a big adjustment for a lot, but that's great. Yeah. So where did the inspiration come from to write this book, A Gay Man's Guide to Life? Get real, stand tall, and take your place. It's a really good book. I was reading some passages. It's really great what you decided to write. How did you come up with writing it?
Well, for the last few decades, I've been thinking about a way to tell my story that would be empowering, especially for the queer community. And I wrestled for years and years with putting myself at the center of that story. And it was not until I was working with a life coach a couple of years ago who helped me flip the script and realize that if I put the reader in the center of the story, made the reader the hero, then I could just interweave my memoir to add context, help build rapport and credibility with the reader, but really put the insights, wisdom, and knowledge, everything that I wanted to share, make that center stage so the reader could just dip in and dip out based on whatever topic or facet of life they wanted to learn more about. At the end of the day, the name of the game was just helping as many guys as I could, particularly in the queer community.
I love that. And I love the idea that, your life coach had and gave you for it. And, it's interesting too, because you said, that you can kind of go in and out of this. This is great about this book is you can like pick and choose sort of, the different sections. I mean, obviously you should read the whole book, but there's so many different topics you cover that, people can read a little bit here, a little bit there. It's, it is done so beautifully in that sense that it's almost like it is a guide. I was going to say it's like an instruction, almost manual.
Yeah, well, that's just it. I intend it to be a manual for life. So if you're going through a season where you're struggling with your career, then you can skip to the chapter on career or personal finances if you're having trouble there, or you could read it cover to cover. It's whatever floats your boat. There's an audio version as well, and so it makes it really easy to dip in and dip out. However, whatever device you want to read it on, or if you want to read it, the hardcover, paperback version, it's there wherever you are, and it's meant to stay with you for all of the seasons of your life.
That's great. I love that. Well, what do you want gay men to take away from reading this book? Is there a specific message or something specific that you'd like them to take away, if anything?
Yeah, I want gay men to start sharpening up their elbows and taking up more space in the world, figuring out who they truly are, going out into the world and being that, transmitting that energy, exuding their values, and being seen and heard. No more slinking in the shadows, playing it small, playing it safe, sitting back in the cheap seats. I want us to take center stage.
That is so important, and I'm so glad that you said that. That is really important. One of the things that you talk about in the book, which is very interesting, because I sort of feel the same way you do. So you talk about in the book gay men dealing with internalized homophobia, that it's rooted in sexism. Where do you think, for gay men, the term too gay for me, flamer, comes about, and how is this toxic term that we see in the gay community, mask for mask, masculine men for masculine men, how is it toxic? I have to say that is something that drives me insane. It's something as a single gay male in the world, dating, and it's, when that question is asked to me, are you mask or femme? And I don't like, people saying, flamer and stuff like that. But I'm curious about that. So
yeah, buckle up. This is going to get real. So this is just misogyny. We have pathologized the feminine, whether it's feminine bodies, feminine expressions. We are saturated in a male-dominated culture. So we are saturated in imagery and words designed to make us feel bad about ourselves, so we buy products. It goes to the heart of capitalism and the patriarchy. So feminine beings are devalued. And we as queer people have internalized this message over the generations. We carry that intergenerational trauma on our back like a sack of rocks, and it impacts all that we do. So one of the first things I recommend everyone do is learn our shared queer history, so you can understand how the dynamics of bigotry, bias, and stigma that have been playing out for generations are impacting us on a daily level today, right here and right now. There's no easier place to see that on a hookup app, where you see people sorting each other and filtering out each other, making assumptions about each other under the guise of preferences. A preference is when I prefer one thing over another. I'm not making any value judgments about those things. I like one thing over another. But these are very insidious. And when we say that we like a whole group of people or a way of being or moving in the world, typically what's happening is it's a bit of a Trojan horse. They're really just prejudices in disguise, a wolf in sheep's clothing. And those prejudices not only inflict harm on the community at whole, they also are injurious to us. They limit us from love and life's connections, and are in large part why we have such an epidemic of loneliness among gay men today.
And why? I mean, I know it's been around for years, but why do you think sort of with gay men, especially, has happened, and it is rooted in misogyny? Because, as you said, we need to learn our history. It wasn't that long ago that gay men and LGBT people were being persecuted, back in the 60s, the 70s. And I mean, then we had the terrible AIDS crisis. What, in your learning or understanding, have you seen or understood that why, and I know all people are different, but why a gay man might put that sort of barrier up, that sort of preference barrier up, or that, too gay, or that, masculine, feminine sort of barrier, or a preference of a certain sex, which really is, discrimination. But
yeah. So, okay, let me pan out for a second. I think that in a world steeped in straight supremacy, we all make homophobic choices from time to time, even gay people. And this is just another homophobic choice that we're making. And I think we could extrapolate that further with regards to race, even though we haven't really gone there yet. It's certainly related, and misogyny in this case. So we have pathologized the feminine, and we have this dynamic of internalized homophobia, which causes a certain level of self-hate. That is imbued in our culture. We cannot help, we're saturated in it. We have to resist it daily. That resistance takes a personal practice of replenishment. And that's what this book is really all about. It's addressing each facet of life so you can create a personal practice that allows you to resist these shenanigans. So when you encounter racism, sexism, misogyny, homophobia in the world, you have the capacity and the tools and the awareness to resist it, to meet it head on. Now, not only are these cultural dynamics at play, but we also have a different dynamic at play, which is the rise of technology, in particular social media and big data, which facilitates the filtering of the various facets of our community. It facilitates it makes it really easy to tap into and weaponize these preferences or prejudices, these biases that we have that we may not even be aware of. With the tap of a button, the click of a button, the swipe left or right, we all of a sudden are weeding whole swaths of the population out, which, like I said previously, is injurious both to all of us, including those of us that are doing that. And so it's preventing us from truly experiencing love. And when we say things like "you are too gay" or "you are a flame," or any other perceived epithet, it's really just an expression of that internalized residual shame and homophobia that we're then weaponizing and projecting out in the world in a misguided attempt to feel more powerful.
Yeah, you're right about that. And it's, it's tough, because as a gay man, I've had that happen way too often, and it makes you sort of second guess yourself. I grew up, I always sort of talked the way I did, and that was something I was picked on in school, and I never thought I talked differently. But, as I got older in life and, got through high school and college and, moved to the city, you start dealing with different gay men and different people in the gay community. And, you start to wonder to yourself, like, am I, people have said, am I too feminine? Am I too this? And you get these sort of, it shouldn't be, because.
And that's the insidious part of it. Think of all that we endured and battled just to get here, meaning find our tribe, find our people, get to the city, all that you battled to get to that moment. And then you think you're going to be embraced, and all of a sudden you encounter even more bias and stigma based on whatever arbitrary facet of your being or expression happens to rub someone the wrong way, which is generally speaking just an internalized reflection of their own shame. So if they feel they're too feminine, they're generally projecting that out on others by calling somebody else too feminine or too gay. In reality, gay is a cultural word more than a sexual orientation. And you're either part of the gay culture or you're not. There is no such thing as being gayer than someone else. That's nonsensical. You're either part of the culture or you're not. There's no litmus test. There's no dues. There's no application process. You're part of the culture. You're gay if you say you're gay. Anything else is just some sort of an epithet in disguise.
I agree. It's one of the things you talk about in the book that I found interesting. You talk about friendships and sort of the importance of friendships. For me personally, after moving out of school, coming to the city, I have found friendships in the gay male community for me have been a godsend. I have found a group of friends that, are like my second family, that I consider sort of to be second family. And it has both helped me and made me grow. And I do have other friends, both in my circle, but also outside of the circle as well, that have sort of said the same thing. How important is it for gay men to find friendships or find that sort of inner circle of people who love them and accept them? And there's really, it's a friendship that blossoms and grows, but isn't one that is based on any preconceived sort of agendas.
It's essential. It is foundational. So even the most well-meaning straight parents rarely have the capacity and awareness to raise culturally gay children. And so that means, generally speaking, there's a void. And even those parents who have the awareness to bring gay people into their lives to model behavior for their gay kids, those people are adults. They're not peers, generally speaking. So even then, there's still a gap. So it's incumbent upon us to find and cultivate a range of relatedness with all sorts of different types of people. And in the queer community, we need to form relationships with elders, so mentor-mentee relationships, and also peers. And those kind of become our soul family, our second family, like you said, our chosen family. And it's essential because we never truly feel whole and healed until we learn to meet ourselves in the eyes of others. What that means is whenever we encounter someone and we see the delight in their eyes, simply because we're standing in front of them, some little part of us is intrinsically healed. And that is essential to forming a foundation, an individuation, so that we can then, we have a foundation that we can leap off of to experience life's adventures.
Very, very interesting. I'm curious, we were talking about friendships. What is the best way gay men during this time of COVID, when it's tough to see friends, tough to sort of see social circles, what is the best way for us to grow during this time? Not that gay men like to have more fun than others, but a lot of the gay men I know, we like to have fun and see friends and go out. But during this time when it is, a very isolating time, the COVID-19, how can we grow and try to be better people?
Yeah, it's imperative that we start with our health. Everything begins with our bodies. And so we have to take care of our health and make a sacred commitment to taking that seriously and making it the foundation of our practice. And so that means potentially consulting with paid medical professionals to develop a baseline, and even a baseline in response to COVID-19. What is your approach going to be? What is your philosophy around masking, around physical distancing, around the vaccine? Not everybody, for instance, is eligible for the vaccine, for some of which are for medical reasons. So it's better to take charge of your life and get empowered and develop a point of view so that you can make really smart, healthy decisions. Now, having said that, gay men typically are really creative when it comes to fostering connections, because we've had to be. We're such a tiny minority. We've been so persecuted for so long. We're really great about finding unique ways to find love. And I think we have a lot to offer the straight world in this regard. So during physical distancing, a lot of people have moved to the online realm, where people were maybe sheepish or maybe discounted online interpersonal connections. Because of the pandemic, we've been forced to learn how to make those work and make those viable. And I think what people find is that, sure, the energy flow may not be as profound as when we're standing in front of each other or hugging each other. There is a loss there that's important to acknowledge and grieve. However, the energy can still flow. I think that anybody who engages in this space will immediately see you can still feel empathy with others, even when you're interacting with them solely online. You can still love them. You can still buoy each other. You can still have fun. So you're going to have to get creative. You're going to have to fight for it, whether it's friendships, platonic love, romantic love. You're just going to have to get creative. And it's just for a few more months. In a few more months, the vaccine demand will likely outpace the supply, which is good news for all of those who want to get vaccinated. And so that means that we can start to turn things around a little bit when it comes to our interpersonal connectedness.
And I cannot wait for that time, believe me, as we all can. In a world of, hookup apps and disposable relationships, which are happening all too often, how do gay men find lasting love? And why are so many gay men afraid of commitment? This is something that, as somebody who is a commitment person, who is sort of I don't want to say loathes the people that just, aren't committing, but that has seen a community where, a lot of the gay men are scared to commit. A lot of gay men are sort of scared to take that next step. How do we find lasting love, or how does one find lasting love in a world that has a lot of noise, like the social media and the apps and everything and hookup?
Yeah,
sure.
It's a simple recipe, but it's an art to practice. So the first thing is, again, learn your queer history, understand the underlying dynamics at play about how our transactional approach to sex and love was a direct result of bias, stigma, and persecution. For instance, when you are prevented from congregating like we were in the 60s and earlier in all sorts of ways, and you have to have, and it's dangerous to form relationships or illegal to form long-term officially recognized relationships, you often segment that area of your life. You're only gay when you're having sex or when you're cruising. And so your emotional state becomes kind of like that divided dinner plate you had when you were a little kid. And so the peas couldn't touch the carrots or whatever. That's not an integrated way to live. It's tough to be congruent when you're segmenting off facets of your personality. So one way you can start to practice this is by learning your queer history and then stepping wholeheartedly into the gay community, coming out of the closet, accepting all of who you are. But even then, that's not enough. You have to go figure out who you are, what makes you unique, what your superpowers are, and then find venues where those can be most effectively expressed. Where can you shine the brightest? And then go do it. Do it over and over, unapologetically, without fear or self-loathing. Shine as bright as you can and create space. Detach from any outcomes you might be trying to engineer, and allow space for the universe to do its magic.
I love that. I absolutely love that. I sometimes think I am old school. Well, not old school, but I'm somebody that is a hopeless romantic, but I'm somebody that also once is in a world of, so quick dating and hookups, that I'm somebody that looks for commitment. And so it's very interesting for me to see as we evolve with apps and everything, and how it sort of works. And, it's very, very interesting for sure. And, I think everyone wants to be happy, but it is interesting to see some, men that I either know or don't know that, don't want to commit or haven't found themselves, or a lot of that commitment also falls into like still accepting themselves, internalized, being things, whether it's, internalized homophobia, internalized acceptance. So it's very interesting.
Yeah, and the key is to know what you want. Like, if you're somebody who wants to hook up, then go hook up and have fun.
Right.
And if you're somebody who wants to have a commitment, look for that. When it comes to apps, I think they can be really helpful, especially because we're such a tiny minority. But I advise everybody to get off of the apps as quickly as possible once a connection starts to bloom. So you've chatted for a few times on the app, get off the apps, once the pandemic is over, then you can meet in real person and participate in that exchange of energy. Because the key is that you show your true authentic self, you shine your light as brightly as possible, and then you follow the energy wherever it leads you. Let go of your preconceived ideas about the way love should be or the life that you should be experiencing, and just follow your energy, almost like the way a surfer surfs a wave.
Yeah. Well, and hopefully hopefully that will happen. Hopefully as the pandemic ends, people, go back to sort of how it, I don't say how it used to be, but look for connections more in person, sort of seek that, human interaction more than just relying on apps and
Yeah, with a renewed consciousness and a renewed appetite for loving kindness and connection.
correct. Yes. What is your favorite specific actionable idea in this book that you wrote? Is there one specific that you have?
So yeah, I think let me tell a story really quickly about my career path that I think will embody this. I was a fine arts major. I was a classical musician, and that was my profession for years. And that's where all my education. I have a graduate degree in that, and all my education was in classical music. And when it became clear that career was not going to work out for me in the way that I envisioned, I was desperately afraid that all of this time and money and energy was wasted, was all for nothing. And I found myself, luckily, in Seattle at the .com boom in 2000, where really anybody could get a job. And I had really not much going for me on paper, but I found myself, because of that situation, I was really lucky. I got a job. And what I learned really quickly was all of those soft skills that I learned along the way by being who I was, by practicing my art, by growing in self-discovery and building self-confidence, standing on stage, performing for people all over the world in a variety of venues, all the discipline that goes with becoming a classical musician, all the training and the education and the knowledge that comes with that was directly applicable to my corporate career and in ways I never dreamed possible. Mm-hmm. So first of all, if you're a fine arts major, take heart, because that's actually a competitive advantage for you in the job market. As that starts to even out and get back more to normal, once the pandemic gets further behind us, your fine arts degree, your fine arts skills are going to give you a competitive advantage over other job applicants. But even more importantly, it showed me that I didn't have to take everything so darn seriously. All I had to do was be myself, who I was all along, and remove all the connections and obstacles to my true self-expression, and everything else would just unfold.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that story. That is very, very interesting. Wow. I love you're so full of wisdom and so good things. I love this. I'm learning so much. So how, as we sort of get ready to finish out here, how can gay men get real, stand tall, and take their place, as is the sort of subtitle of the book? How can a gay man or gay men do that? If you had to sort of sum it up in a response, I know that's probably hard.
No, we have to claim our birthright. We have to claim the space that is due us. Nobody's going to give it to us. People don't cede power willingly. We have to take it. And that's not a call to arms. That's a call to action and a cause to action. We are essential. We belong in this world. Wherever we are is exactly where we belong. Now we just have to start acting like it. Stop wearing masks. Stop trying to be the best little boy in the world. Stop playing it small. Stop sitting in the cheap seats. Take center stage, grab the mic, and sing your friggin' song.
Yes, I love that. Be proud, be who you are, What advice would you, as we finish here, offer to gay men who maybe want to sort of write their own story and want to sort of do what you did and sort of write a book, whether it's a memoir, self-help, and they don't know where to start. Maybe they're scared or worried about being judged. What would your advice be?
There's an entire industry out there ready and waiting to help you. You can plug into ghostwriters who will interview you and write that book for you, with you writing co-pilot, if that floats your boat. Or if you want to have a stronger hand in the process, you can write part of it and have a team of editors to help you flesh that out. Or if you're a natural writer and confident in your ability, or want to preserve the sanctity of your voice, then you can write all of it and submit it to publishers, or even publish it yourself. Now more than ever, there's no excuse not to write your story, not to share it with the world. There's a myriad of platforms, whether it's online or print or audio. There are, and like I said, an entire industry ready and willing to help you. All it takes is that leap of faith.
Yes, it does. I love that. Well, Britt, where can we purchase your book? I know it's on Amazon. It's an Amazon bestseller, which is incredible. But is this available in Barnes and Nobles and sort of everywhere else?
It's available everywhere books were sold, but I've made it really easy for you. My website is the hub of all my work. So if you go to britteast.com, you can find all of my free articles, my blog, my free socials, all right there consolidated, as well as a list of all of the online stores where you can purchase my book. Everything from independent bookstores online to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and everything in between.
And I was so happy to see that it was an Amazon bestseller. That's very exciting. That must have made you very happy as well. And
it was just shocking, frankly.
And where can we follow you on social media?
So my website has links to everything, but in general, my handle is @BrittEast.
Great. Awesome. Well, Britt, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. As a reminder, if you are interested, you can head to ridethenewsguy.com/donate if you are interested in supporting the show and this platform. Britt East, thank you so much for doing this, for taking the time to talk with me. I learned so much, and I wish you the best, and I can't wait to see what comes next. So
it was a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Britt.